We all clap, but why? Join us for the curious past, psychology, culture of clapping, from its earliest origins up through its adaptation today in the most current applications. It might be one simple act, but that has adopted international gesture, an approval move. How science and the strange stories will explore this tradition with us at its core odd human ritual. Have you ever thought about clapping? That simplest of actions, which seems instinctive even, in the bringing together of our hands to make sound. We do it to show appreciation, to celebrate, to encourage. But have you ever wondered why? Clapping is everywhere: concert halls, sports stadiums, and theaters. It erupts at moments of triumph, seals a powerful speech, and comforts a crying baby. It's so deeply ingrained into our culture that we rarely think to question it. But human beings have been clapping for millennia. But where did this universal act originate? Why do we clap instead of, say, stomping our feet or waving our hands? And what is it about the rhythmic sound of applause that makes it feel so satisfying and collective? Montage of various clapping moments. A roaring standing ovation at an awards show, a child excitedly clapping on their birthday. A stadium crowd is applauding a last-minute goal, a classical music concert where the audience claps politely, people clapping in a protest rally, slow, sarcastic claps in a comedic scene. Believe it or not, clapping is not just about noise. It is connected with human psychology, social bonding, and even the dynamics of power. From the ancient Roman gladiatorial combats, where the crowd decided a warrior's fate with applause, to synchronized clapping traditions in different cultures, to why applause spreads like a virus in an audience. The science behind it, we are covering it all. Sit back and join us as we reveal the secret history, psychology, and cultural significance of clapping. By the end of this video, you might just never look at applause quite the same. Clapping has been around for thousands of years long, before modern theaters, stadiums, and concert halls. But did you know that in ancient civilizations, clapping wasn't just about appreciation? It was a powerful form of communication, a signal that could determine the fate of performers, leaders, and even warriors. The first recorded evidence of the earliest print reference originates from ancient Greece. Rhythmic stomping, shouting, and yes, even clapping were methods used by the Greeks to receive a performance. And the more frenzied the reaction, the better the performance was. But the Romans perfected the art of applause. In Rome, clapping wasn't just a question of expressing pleasure, it was an instrument of power. There were several forms of approbation: finger snapping, the waving of togas, and even choreographed applause to the tune of professional clappers called laudatory. Such professional applause makers were paid for applauding actors, politicians, and even emperors, since in Rome, applause equaled power. Perhaps the most dramatic use of applause, however, was in the arena. Here, literally, the crowd's reaction could spell life or death, with a victorious gladiator given reprieve by the audience cheering and applauding them toward continuing to fight on. But if it was weak, or worse, if the audience gave thumbs down, well, let's just say it wasn't a good day to be a gladiator. High stakes. With time, clapping evolved. By the Middle Ages, it had become a privilege. It was reserved for the nobility as a form of appreciation from the royal courts for the entertainers, musicians, and poets. A well-received performance would mean royal favor, while silence might signal disapproval, or worse, exile. Clapping also had another meaning during religious ceremonies. In some clappings, it was an adoration, a form of praise to divinity. In other religions, the applauding was too worldly, replaced by quiet reverence or solemn nods of approval. Fast forward to today, and clapping has become one of the most universal human expressions. Whether it's celebrating a great performance, cheering on an athlete, or simply encouraging someone, we clap to connect, to acknowledge, and to express emotion. And yet, through all these centuries of evolution, clapping retains its basic quality: an act of social, public display of feeling joy, encouragement, gratitude. It unites us in moments big and small, from the roar of a stadium full of thousands to the intimate sound of a baby clapping for the first time. Why do we clap? It might sound like an incredibly simple question, but the answer is far deeper than we may imagine. Clapping is a thing not wired into our habits or traditions, but rather into the core of our brains. When we clap, we activate several parts of the brain simultaneously. Our motor cortex controls the physical act of clapping, One while our limbic system, the part responsible for emotions, responds to the experience. This combination releases a surge of dopamine, the feel-good neurotransmitter, which explains why clapping, especially in a group, feels satisfying and even uplifting. But here's where it gets even more interesting. Clapping is contagious. When we hear others clapping, our brains instinctively want to join in. This phenomenon is known as social mirroring, a subconscious behavior where we copy the actions of those around us. Social mirroring plays a key role in human connection. It helps us form relationships, establish group identity, and strengthen social bonds. When we clap together, we feel like we're part of something bigger than ourselves, whether it be celebrating a performance, cheering at a sports event, or just acknowledging a shared moment. Ever notice how applause rolls like a wildfire? Scientists term this the applause cascade, a kind of phenomenon whereby one single clap triggers a chain reaction, bringing an entire crowd into clapping in unison. It's not all about appreciation, it is also about conformity. Nobody likes to be that single person sitting quietly while everybody else is clapping. Other times, applause isn't about enthusiasm, it's social pressure. Ever found yourself having to clap, no matter if you were especially impressed? From political rallies to corporate meetings, sometimes it's more about fit-in clapping rather than honest-to-goodness appreciation. We love to clap from the very birth moments. Babies start clapping when they cannot even utter words, which again proves this action is attached with our psychologies. Clapping has been used as a way of celebration, encouragement, or it is just instinctive. Whatever the case, it is not only noise but an important human experience. So the next time you find yourself clapping along with a crowd, remember, it's not just a simple gesture. It's a mix of biology, psychology, and social connection, all wrapped up in the sound of two hands coming together. Clapping is universal yet deeply cultural. Across the world, different cultures have imbued this most instinctive of actions with unique meanings, traditions, and rituals. In some cultures, clapping is formal, a gesture reserved for special occasions. In others, it's spontaneous, woven into music, dance, and everyday life. Take, for example, Africa. For most African cultures, clapping is not just a means of applauding, but a very integral means of expressing oneself musically and socially. It rhythmically complements a drum beat, punctuates the movement from one story to another, and adds vitality to celebrations. In some areas, different kinds of claps indicate different things, from excitement to respect. Let's move on to Japan now, where clapping is spiritual. During Shinto rituals, kashiwa is the special way of clapping twice to purify the air and invoke the spirits before making an offering. It's not an applause, but a sign of reverence, luck, and spiritual connection. In Japanese culture, apart from religious services, structured clapping also finds its place and is very commonly used in business as a mark of success after any event. And yet clapping has also evolved along different paths in the West. In 18th century Europe, for instance, it was a hallmark of culture. Opera and theater audiences were heavily bound by etiquette. They clapped only at predetermined points. Standing ovations were rare and usually reserved for phenomenal performances. The rules have all changed today. People today are encouraged in most concerts to applaud after every song that the performers render. And during specific performances, this even becomes participatory with lots of rhythmic clapping, as happens with pop and rock events. During jazz club performances, they will occasionally use clapping towards the end of highly impressive solo. And who can forget clapping in sports? From thunderous applause in stadiums to the subdued, polite golf clap, unwritten rules regarding clapping exist for different sports. In football, coordinated applause and rhythmic chants create an electric atmosphere. Audiences in tennis remain silent during a point before bursting into applause. But clapping isn't only for celebration, but it may also be an instrument of unity and protest. Within political movements and demonstrations, mass clapping might serve as an act of defiance, a means to magnify the voice without saying anything. Through historic civil rights marches to modern-day rallies, applause has been utilized as a symbol of solidarity. But beneath all that, clapping is among the most naked expressions of humanity. From a standing ovation in a packed theater, to a rhythmic chant in a stadium, or simply to a baby discovering the magic of making sound with his hands, clapping connects us. It traverses borders, languages, and generations, reminding us that sometimes in the simplest gestures, there lies the deepest meaning. Before we wrap up, let's dive into some fun and surprising facts about clapping, because believe it or not, this simple action has some incredible records and quirks. Did you know the world record for most claps per minute is an astonishing 1,103 claps? That's roughly 19 claps per second. The record was set by Eli Bishop, a professional musician known for his incredible speed and precision. Try beating that if your hands don't get sore first. Clapping in some cultures is not only reserved for applause, but forms part of the music. Consider the example of flamenco dancing in Spain, where rhythmic clapping or palmas plays a huge role in determining the tempo and intensity of the performance. Professional clappers called palmeros use various hand positions and techniques to make complex beats to accompany the dance. And here's something heartwarming: infants as young as 6 months old start clapping before they can even talk. Clapping is one of the very first ways babies express joy, excitement, and social connection. It's instinctive, reinforcing the idea that clapping is hardwired into human behavior from the start. From slow claps of sarcasm to standing ovations of admiration, clapping really does come in all shapes and sizes. From ceremonies to sport, music, and entertainment, it's even utilized as a teaching tool to keep students active in education, simple yet so versatile. So next time you clap, whether at a concert, a sports game, or simply to celebrate the little victories of life, remember, you contribute to a timeless, universal tradition connecting humankind for generations. A sign of appreciation, encouragement, and togetherness, spanning cultures and history, even science. Now, a big audience is giving a standing ovation. Now, close in on an individual who is smiling while clapping. We hope you enjoyed this deep dive into the fascinating world of clapping. If you did, go ahead and show some appreciation by liking this video, subscribing to the channel, and maybe even clapping at your screen. Thanks for watching, and until next time, keep clapping.